Hello. Hopefully, there we go. I'm sorry I'm not here today. If you want to know why, if you are a fan of Greek mythology, you know about Achilles, or look it up. Anyways, here's the plans. We're going to finish the Civil War. We are going to, hopefully, I'll be back this afternoon, if not tomorrow. Finish the Civil War, do a couple quick assignments, and here we go. So, when we left off, Abraham Lincoln had been elected president, the 16th president of the United States. The issue of slavery all through ever since 1776 in the beginning of the country, the issue with slavery had been dividing us. At the beginning, we find lots of ways to compromise. As time goes by through the 1800s, it becomes harder and harder to compromise because because for one reason, in the South, cotton and slavery are being very, very profitable thanks to the cotton gin and the Industrial Revolution. And also, abolitionists are becoming more active, especially as other countries outlaw slavery and the United States doesn't. And things like Uncle Tom's Cabin and Dred Scott decision, Fugitive Slave Act, all these things kind of make it so the North doesn't want to compromise, and it gets harder and harder. And as we go on, we're getting now up to almost this explosion. So in 1860, as you know, Lincoln is elected. Now he is elected in November is the election, and in those days the new president does not get sworn in until March of the next year. So we have several months of James Buchanan as the president, and during this time, South Carolina and other states begin to secede. That's a word you need to know, secede or secession, to declare independence, to break away from a country. They are going to create this kind of fake pretend country or imaginary country. I guess they would say it was a real country, but Abraham Lincoln would say no, it wasn't, because once you join the United States, you cannot quit. So there really was no such thing. It was kind of just a make-believe country, if you were to ask Abraham Lincoln. All right. Despite that, the country uses a lot of the symbolism of the United States and the founding fathers, because these Confederates like to pretend that they are the real Americans, even though they're trying to destroy the United States because they want to keep slavery. I should say they want to break apart the Union and go their own way so that they can continue to have slavery. And a lot of the things that they will refer to, like this unite or die, the snake, etc., are similar to what the founding fathers did. They want to portray themselves as the real Americans. Now, Lincoln, like I said, is elected in November without a beard. He is sworn in March with a beard, March of 1861. James Buchanan is the president in the time in between, a lame duck president who does not help his reputation, because as southern states start to secede, Buchanan basically is just trying to avoid war and does not do much. Gradually, what this means is that the United States government owns properties. The federal government owns properties all over the country, including in the southern states. For example, forts, military bases, post offices, veterans hospitals, etc., etc. And during this time period, the southern states start taking over these United States properties, these federal government properties, one by one, until there are very few left. One of the ones that is left is this island fort called Fort Sumter, which is in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. Now, when Lincoln becomes elected, he gets a letter from the commander of the fort asking, what should we do here? We're not going to be able to hold out for too long. We're surrounded by these Confederates. Should we surrender? Should we not? Lincoln decides, this is what James Buchanan's view was. This person, the artist here, did not think much of James Buchanan surrendering when the South threatening to declare war, basically, when this artist thinks the South Carolina would have been the one destroyed by a war. So Buchanan should not have surrendered to the fort. But Buchanan wants to avoid war at all costs and basically turn the problem over to Lincoln. So when Lincoln becomes president, Fort Sumter here wants to know, what do we do? What do we do? We're surrounded by these Confederate forces, and we're running out of food and supplies. Lincoln lets the Confederates know that he is going to send an unarmed ship here to resupply the fort, not as an act of war, but to resupply the fort. As he does this, the South Carolina forces open fire on the fort, and the bombardment goes on for more than 24 hours. Shockingly, very few casualties, if any. But this is the beginning of the war, the national crisis, etc. And this, if you pause here and read all these different places that have been taken over by the Confederate or the Southern forces, before really it comes to war, but then it comes to war. After Lincoln is elected, this is Lincoln's inauguration, by the way, in March. This happens in in April. That's the attack on Fort Sumter. The attack on Fort Sumter, the war has begun. This is the official start of the Civil War, which we'll be talking about in the next unit. Now, to sum up causes of the war in the notes there, slavery is the cause of the war, despite what some people will say. All of these other things that states' rights, how much power the federal government have, the Dred Scott decision, all these things, really it boils down to they were trying to keep the balance. It is true that the North did not go to the United States did not go to war just to end slavery. They were trying to keep the country together. But the whole reason the country was splitting apart was because the southern states did not want to lose the right to own human beings. Another one, sectionalism. The North and South were becoming two different countries, essentially. The North was becoming much more modern, industrialized, cities growing, new technologies and everything. And the South remains rural, agricultural, just really growing cotton and depending heavily on slave labor. States' rights, this is a factor. You can't deny that was a part of it. The states disagreed about how much power the federal government should have and whether the states should be allowed to secede or nullify federal laws. The South thought they should. The North thought we should not. The unwillingness to compromise, as time went by, it became harder and harder to compromise due to Uncle Tom's Cabin, Fugitive Slave Act, Dred Scott decision, etc., etc., and the growth of the cotton industry and dependence on slave labor. And then finally, the real ultimate thing that sets off the explosion is secession. The South fears that the federal government is going to abolish slavery, and they don't want to wait around until that happens. So they're going to eventually secede and ultimately attack Fort Sumter to kind of provoke this war. Okay, that is all for today. I will be back and we will cover more. Make sure there's some things for you to do here. Filling in any notes that you are missing using the website, which I accidentally closed down. Oh, here we go. This has all of the filled in notes for you. Anything that we are missing, like we never filled in the names here, but you can get those. This is actually on the back of this sheet, but you'll be able to figure it out. This is a good summary of the unit, as is this, all the compromises and everything you need to know, a short summary version there for you to help you out. All right, I hope to see you soon. That is all for now. Talk to you later.